Hey there, folks. So earlier in the month, I did some flying and some traveling. I was in Portland, Oregon for Rose City Comic Con. That meant I needed entertainment on the flight. That meant I watched at least one movie that I can remember. I feel like I watched the second one, but I can't remember if I did. But I'll talk about that later. But first, we're gonna talk about the book that I read. It's called Bunnybirds. I'm not gonna hold this up the whole time, so I'll put it right up there. This is written by Natalie Lynn. In full disclosure, Natalie and I are professional acquaintances. I I don't know if it's presumptuous for me to say friend. Like we both follow each other's work. She has a channel here on YouTube called Sin Squad. Great video essays if you haven't checked that out. But I know her originally because, well, I say originally. I know her because she did some illustrations for my novel. She was actually the first illustrator that I started working with, and she did a lot of really important early work, including realizing the final look of Torvek, which is a really important city. Within that, she was the first artist to render that setting, and she was great to work with. She's fantastic, but before that, originally, she got on my radar because she did a piece of fan art of me as a cat. And yeah, it was back when I still wore the flat cap, but I still like it. Still like it a lot. But she's lovely. And she has this graphic novel, Bunnybirds. Now, first thing worth mentioning about this is the intended age range. This is, I would say, elementary school level, upper elementary, like fourth, fifth grade, probably be good for this. I think middle school, some of them might like this. Some might find it a little bit, I don't know, a little bit too silly. Like again, it's not like you can't enjoy it if you aren't younger, but I think that is the target demographic, and I think the writing and the ways ideas are expressed are aimed at that sort of like same kind of age range as when people first start getting into like Wings of Fire or Cat Warriors books or stuff like that. And the first thing I want to talk about is the art, because Natalie's art is wonderful and has a really unique look to it. In these days when digital art is the majority of art, and that's not a knock. Digital art is amazing, but there's something really unique about her work because she works in colored pencil. Like that is the final results. These pages, this is all colored pencil. And it gives it a unique texture and a unique feel that you're not going to find other places. Aside from that, her art is very fun and lively and energetic, especially with dealing with these kinds of animals. So the setting is on this floating island inhabited by bunnybirds. They live a very idyllic kind of life. Like, oh, things don't bother us, and when things seem off, oh, we just don't worry about that. We don't think about that. And some of them have started disappearing, and nobody's really doing anything because they're not really kind of mentally, socially equipped to know what to do. So the princess leaves the island to try and find out where everybody is gone. And thus begins the adventure. She encounters another bunny bird who's a little bit of an outlier, a little bit of a rogue, and then a multi-limbed dog. And they go forth and have sort of a road trip kind of adventure. It feels in some ways almost like they're like the kind of traveling through strange places that you get from something like The Never-Ending Story. It has that kind of energy to the shift in settings as they go, but it's a lot of fun. The art, as I said, it carries a lot because it's a really unique look to it. As far as the story goes, it is as I said, given the age that it's pitched at, I don't think too many adult readers are going to be particularly surprised by the plot turns. Not that anything's really played as a twist, but you could probably map out the overall arc of this story and these characters pretty early on. That doesn't make it ineffective. And actually, one of the things I really appreciate about it is that eventually it does circle back to give a more intense examination of that opening setting and the fact that the Bunnybirds just pretend everything's fine even if it's not, and like actually interrogates that a bit more than I thought would have happened. I wasn't really expecting it to examine that notion any deeper than sort of taking it as a setting and explaining why only one of them is going out and trying to solve this problem. So there's some interesting things going on in terms of repression, masking even is kind of in there as a theme. So there is more to get out of it than just the surface level story. Even though the surface level story, and again, this isn't really a criticism, it really is just a statement of fact, is relatively predictable, pretty easy to track, but the characters are fun enough, and watching their dynamic build, and there's a real good sense of danger at some of the later points. She's very good at mood setting, which is also something she brought to the illustration she did for my book. So I knew that going in. But I would say that if you want something a little bit different, and either you enjoy stuff aimed at this kind of age, and or you have kids, nieces, nephews, cousins, what have you, who are at that age, sort of third, fourth, fifth grade, I think this has a lot of potential to really hit with that audience. It's not too long. It was a pretty breezy read for me, at least, but and that's not me bragging. That's, just why did I don't even know why I said it like that. But I think this would be a really fun treat for kids in that age range, again, especially if they like stuff like Warrior Cats, or maybe even if you think they're not quite old enough for Warrior Cats, because I don't know if people realize how violent Warrior Cats, and especially Wings of Fire, actually is. I learned that the hard way. My kid was a massive Wings of Fire fan from an age that, if I'd realized how violent these stories were, I would not have introduced them at the age that they were. They weren't traumatized, but I still felt like, So if you actually know what's in those books, most parents don't seem to, but if you actually know what's in those books and you're like, maybe next year, I'll, for my kid or my niece or my nephew, then give them this now, because this I think they'll be good with, and it has that same adventure, building found family kind of feel that is the appeal of a lot of those kinds of books. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I would encourage more people to check it out. It does kind of set up for a sequel. So far as I know, there is not one in the works. Natalie's working on other projects, which I absolutely sympathize with, because I'm not making a lot of progress on my own follow-up book. I will get to it. I need to finish the damn audiobook for my first novel. Anyways, stop making this about me. Regardless, Bunnybirds. I don't imagine too many people have read it, but if you have, I'd love to hear what you think of it. And if you haven't, what other kind of stuff along these lines would you recommend, or what about this intrigues you? Whatever your thoughts might be, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, and subscribe all help me out. But don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melinda Pedersen, Tarak, the Thing That Goes Doink in the Anime, Gene Foray, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Frenobulax the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperel, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Adam R. D.L. Taylor, Palba Rabajoggle, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. If you're wondering about this little guy, this is Nymph. He's new. Don't worry, the other two are fine. He's just not fully socialized with them yet. You'll see them all together soon. Won't they? Yes, they will.